Hanford made plutonium for atomic bombs. Now it's the most contaminated site in the Western Hemisphere.
Well, Hanford is located in south central Washington. It's 586 square miles of land that was used when we were producing plutonium for the Cold War.
It's located on Yakima Nation ceded land. In 1941, the government wanted to work on a secret project, and so tribal members were asked to move off, but they were promised that they would be able to go back.
This is the Columbia River, and it flows through 50-some miles of the Hanford Reach, and it's a major water resource for agriculture, for drinking water from here down through to Astoria.
Historically, when the reactors were running, a lot of material was discharged into the river. That stopped a long time ago, but now what we're trying to do is make sure that the contamination that's in the soils, that remains of that discharge, doesn't get into the river.
Hanford, we have square miles of land that is contaminated. We have surface facilities, subsurface facilities, high-level waste, chemical waste, low radioactive waste.
80 square miles of groundwater contamination. It's hard to see contamination moving through groundwater, although as a hydrogeologist I love to imagine it.
When I first came to Hanford, I was surprised at how beautiful it is. Does this look like the most contaminated site in the Western Hemisphere?
How tangible is it to understand radioactivity and the risks associated with that and the chemical waste? You can't really see it, you can't really smell it, but there definitely is a risk associated with the waste that's there, and that's why we're trying to clean it up.
It's a huge list of contaminants in that waste.
In the soils we have nitrate, we have plutonium, we have americium,
technetium-99,
strontium, hexavalent chromium,
cesium, and strontium.
and you could list everything under the sun, and we probably have it at Hanford.
So now we have 53 million gallons of the nastiest stuff that's still sitting in those tanks. And so it's really important to get those tanks emptied, the tanks cleaned up.
And probably the worst hazards right now are the tank vapors from the waste tanks and beryllium. And those have not been as well managed in the past as they could have been.
Whenever people are working with hazardous waste and radioactive waste, there's always the potential for exposure, and it is dangerous work.
The other thing about radiation is you can tell when it's there. You've got instruments that can tell when it's there. You can't see it or smell it, but you have very good instrumentation to detect it. With beryllium and tank vapors, not so good.
Tribal people are the most vulnerable as far as living near Hanford and then consuming fish. The fatal cancer risks are as high as 1 in 50.
The river itself is in really good condition from a water quality standpoint, but that's because we've been doing so much work to protect it.
Right now, we spend $2 billion a year in taxpayer money to reduce that risk, to make sure that future generations are safe.
Hanford is going to be a long-term cleanup project.
It's like a marathon. We've started, we've gotten a good third of it in, but we still have quite a ways to go with the cleanup.
Because there's not going to be any Rambo chemistry or Rambo technology or pixie dust that's going to be available in order to magically clean up the site.
But a lot of the problems that we're facing now, we don't have great solutions for. We have solutions which can give us some time, but to have long-term durable solutions is going to take some innovation.
30 years ago, the glassification or vitrification technology that is now going to be used in the waste treatment plant at Hanford was invented at Hanford in order to solidify, glassify high-level radioactive waste. So that went from the laboratory to now into the field.
If we don't get after the waste and start putting all those parts and pieces in place so that we can immobilize it or remediate it, then we won't be able to keep it from leaving the Hanford site or be able to remediate it while it's in a place that you can get to it.
Already we have been one generation over 20 years into cleanup, and the projected milestones for Hanford cleanup extend for another 2 generations, another 40 to 50 years.
And because a lot of the answers are not black and white, there's science that can help us know what the options are. But sometimes we have to make public policy decisions, and so the role of the public is really important.
We have to have a public will that's here that says you need to return Hanford to maybe not its pristine state, but to a state that's acceptable for the future generations.
Actively participating in Hanford can have a real impact on real people.
There are opportunities every year for the public to get involved. There are hearings and comment periods.
Thanks everybody for showing up tonight.
You can call your senators. You can write into the newspapers. And most of all, you can just tell your friends what's going on at Hanford.
People identifying where we are and where we need to be, that's going to be the crux of where and how fast and how costly cleanup is going to take.
I'm involved in Hanford cleanup because I'm very concerned with the future. My great-grandmother, Sawasaipam, she had passed her Indian name on to me, and I want to see that contamination is greatly reduced by the time I have a great-granddaughter and have to pass that name along, and for the other tribal members yet unborn, and everybody.